Joe, what's the most interesting thing you've read this week? You're always constantly reading different books. You send me text messages with just a quote from a book photographed in it, and I'm like, oh crap, that's going to be the rest of my day thinking about that. What's new and interesting that you've come across this week that's sort of sticking on your brain?
I guess the thing that I've been thinking about, not so much a quote, it's more of an observation of my own mannerisms and my own way I'm approaching things is, and something I talked about a lot. It's thinking about future, thinking about the past, and trying to be present. And sometimes when you read things, and sometimes when you think about things, and sometimes when you get involved into things in life, as much as you accept that as truth, that the present moment is where all the potential exists, sometimes you get pulled in different directions. Sometimes that happens, right? And so I've been trying to not think about that stuff because I feel like there's been elements of concern that have come in. And so I want to say one thing I can say is I feel like there's been things written and published about that talk about your conscious ultimately controls your subconscious to an extent, right? And so if you practice something, and athletes that have to with people that become specialists in things and go through school, like you train, the 10,000 hours thing with the Beatles and all that stuff, like you're consciously focused on something, and then ultimately your subconscious will get to the point in which you're that much more efficient at it, you're that much more effective at it. And reading something that can't recall specifically what was said, but it was almost like if you think about the energy that powers your body beyond just the conscious subconscious, like a predecessor to that is the energy that beats your heart, the energy that powers your life, the energy that gives you awareness, that functions every element of your body and your being, and trying to feel and understand that at a level that precedes subconsciousness, precedes that, and to really just even think about what that could even mean. Because the reality is like you're not consciously learning how to pump your blood. You're not consciously learning how to breathe, right? And so what is there that precedes that subconscious that is comprehensible? As Einstein said, comprehensibility is one of the most fascinating mysteries that exists within our world. Like no matter what there is, you can dive deeper, you can dive deeper, you can dive deeper, and you can understand, and there's no limit to the depth of understanding that you can ultimately attain, because no matter how deep you go, there's still, who knows, endless amount of layers that exist that you can't even perceive of or comprehend until you get there, until you have that experience, until you're in a place in which sometimes we even read things and we don't really fully understand it, even though we believe it and we accept it as truth. We don't fully understand it until we actually experience it, right? And so I think that's one of the things that's, again, not so much a quote, but something that I was thinking about this week in terms of like, is that what happened? Is that what I feel? Is that what we feel when we meditate? Do we feel the energy of that's powering our body? And does that go deeper than our subconscious? Is there an innate intelligence there that is, literally knows what to do? Knows what to do and at least running our bodies, and is likely the same intelligence that's running the nature that's in your world and my world and all of that, right? And thinking about that at a deeper level. So long-winded response, but yes, like that's what I would say I've been thinking about, because I feel like we have a lot that's focused on the conscious and training the subconscious and all of that, but like what about the layer but beneath that nobody's looking at, but very simply is, from my perspective, at least with what I feel and what I've experienced, like starts with a heartbeat. Nobody's alive unless they have a heartbeat, right? So why don't we look there? That's energy. That's electricity, right? Sounds reasonable. Sounds simple enough. It's quite interesting that we're not exploring that deeper.
And I mean, you see it all the time around in different places. Like, what's that thing about babies when they're born, they know how to swim, but then they lose that ability as their brain starts to develop more. Like there's definitely something that's innately, and I mean, you look at nature, animals that are born 30 seconds ago, they're up and running and, they're active. They're doing things that no one taught them how to do. They were inside of somebody else a second ago, and now they're up. They know instinctively how to nurse. They do all these sorts of things. And I mean, even when you look into some of the cool stuff, like how when a mother holds a newborn, her skin will start to heat up more just to keep the baby warm. Like that's not something that you're doing. It's something that somewhere along the line, some energy, epigenetics, in whatever way that you want to define it, has made this possible in a way that the greatest minds, the greatest designers in the world, Steve Jobs, would not have thought of this in his first try of making up motherhood. I don't think. I think this is something that comes years and years and generations of an energy that we don't even know about.
Yeah, and energy cannot be created nor destroyed, says the scientific experts of physics. So, like I said, like Einstein said, the comprehensibility is innate enormous. And at the same time, the simplicity of some of these things that we just take for granted because it just is, right? And then we're focused on the conscious, subconscious, but then what if the layer beneath that is so much more powerful? It's so much more beneficial and so much more natural and simple, right? It is simple. Is it complex? Yes, because of all of the multifacets of individualized expressions that exist within nature and plants and animal life and within the planet, like mineral life and all of this stuff, like all of the elements, like it's all here, right? And so it's just something that's fascinating that I think again is because we have so much of our focus on what's above that and what's right within what we feel is our physical world, but getting deeper to that and trying to think and understand that is, I think at least for me is incredibly eye-opening in terms of perspectives and removing limitations. Anytime you can find a limitations, coach. This is one of Coach K, the Duke, Hall of Fame basketball coach. Find your limitations, and then you know where your weaknesses are. You know where to go beyond. You know where you got to work on, so you can expand that and get beyond that limitation, right? And it's literally that simple. Like we're in a world of limitations. If you really kind of pay attention to it, like that's literally what it is. And the more you can find those limitations and remove them and not allow them to be something that limit you, the more unlimited you become, and the more freedom you have naturally. Because what is freedom? Freedom is non-existence of limitations, right? At its most basic definition.
I think I've been seeing a great example of this lately, again, with our dog. We have these baby gates set up around the house. So we've got a dog and we've got two cats. And we want the cats to have as much mobility as possible, but the dog can't go everywhere. So we've got these baby gates. And for the longest time, it was just a baby gate, and they have this little door in the bottom of the door we can open up and close them so that cats can go through. And for the longest time, we kept them all closed because the dog was tiny enough that she could get through the gate as well, if we hear the sort of hole for them if we kept it open. But now she's a little bit bigger, and we started opening up, and she definitely could fit through those holes if she tried, but she now just has in her mind that those gates you can't get through. Even if there's a hole right there that she definitely can get through, she's defined it in her mind as something that she can't pass, and so she won't even try. And that is it just goes to how powerful mindset can be.